And we're live.
We are live. Crimson and Blue Chips family, how are we doing this afternoon, Wednesday afternoon? On October 24th, I'm John Garcia Jr. We got producer Kev alongside. It's the bye week for Alabama, so we figured we would just kind of do one all-encompassing show to make it that much easier. But there is a convenient reason why we're coming to you on Wednesday as opposed to Tuesday, where we've been the last couple of weeks. We obviously knew Alabama was set to get another blue chip commitment. And seeing how Bama hadn't gotten one in the class of 2019 for a couple of months, we figured you guys would be pretty excited to talk about Braylen Ingraham, especially because we haven't spent a lot of time on him on this here podcast. So we're going to use some technology and be able to show you some clips of Braylen discuss his Alabama commitment, to which he announced on Tuesday evening via Twitter, courtesy of 24/7 Sports. Andrew Ivins, who runs our Miami site, actually got the exclusive announcement with Braylen, who obviously selected Alabama over Miami and Oregon. So, Kev, I don't know if the video's queued up. This is our first time, so bear with us. But we'd love to show you a little bit of what Bama got and kind of go through a bit of a live evaluation.
Yep, we are queued up, and if you'll give me just a second, I will bring it up for us. I'm bringing up our live chat real quick. That way I can make sure everything's going good in the live chat. And let's get to Braylen.
If you get the Kevin side, you know that he's processing mental thoughts.
All right, so double check and make sure you have the video on your.
I do. Yep, and it's on the live chat as well.
All right.
Beautiful.
Here we go.
It's like 1,000 windows.
This is a mid-season senior tape.
Yeah, just real quick, Braylen Ingraham, 6'4", between 265 and 280, depending on who you ask. Obviously a defensive lineman, and we've talked about Alabama's defensive line recruiting upticking a lot this year. And this is the latest guy in the hall, not too dissimilar from Antonio Alfano, from Justin Eboigbe, another guy who is an outside-in type of defensive lineman. You see the first step there, incredibly impressive. And for those who don't know, even just look at the name in the end zone there. St. Thomas Aquinas is one of the most talented high schools every single year, not only in the state of Florida, but in the country. Broward County, Florida, obviously fertile competition each and every week. So he's doing it against some of the best in South Florida. He's not, just dominating less than stellar competition. So again, a guy who can play inside and out, probably going to end up as a 3 technique down the road. Kind of that Quinnen Williams vibe, right? 240 or so as a junior, shot up a little bit as a senior. You're starting to see the potential with him bulking up, yet maintaining his explosion, if anything, looking better and more explosive as a senior compared to his junior season at Dillard High School when he was a bit lighter. So you see him playing more confidently. He's comfortable. Everything's kind of coming together at the right time for Ingraham, who had a major injury as a junior, part of the reason why he's a bit of a late bloomer in the recruiting scene in terms of exploding, being a Bama-level prospect. Kev, what do you see with Mr. Ingraham on tape?
Yeah, like you said, his first step off the ball is pretty good. He plays with pretty good pad level. I'd like to see it maybe a little bit lower, but if he's going to be moving inside like some people think, then he looks like he might be able to do that. And then he's fighting off blocks and making plays in the backfield pretty well. And like you said, this isn't some scrub competition he's playing. He's at St. Thomas. St. Thomas is always nationally competitive, and he looks pretty good.
Yeah, and this is, really in terms of recruiting, this was a big win for Alabama, not only because of the obvious where, hey, Alabama needs a ton of D linemen, and it's a big priority this year. And Bama's not done, by the way. Don't think that this commitment could affect Sopsher or Tuitele or Siaki Ika. These are different types of prospects. So I think that goes without saying, but let's reiterate that just because he's an outside-in type of D lineman right now doesn't mean that he's a classic 3 tech already, or a guy who has nose guard ability. We don't see that quite yet. So the Sopshires, the Ikas of the world are still very much in play for Alabama. But when you look at where he is now versus where he was a year ago, it tells you the type of push Alabama has made. Before the injury, there was a certain rawness to his game. You're seeing much more polish. He's playing with better leverage. I do think some of that comes with his setting. He's at St. Thomas, which we can't state enough in terms of the coaching. I mean, these guys have position coaches at every level. And his position coach is Jason Taylor, former Miami Dolphin, a guy Hall of Fame. If not, he's on the way there. Uber productive defensive lineman in the NFL for many, many years, and a South Florida native now at this point. So this is guys getting NFL education every single day when he's lining up in practice at St. Thomas. And again, going against some of the top high schools in South Florida each and every week. But when you talk about how big of a win this was, I don't think it could be stated enough how much of a lead Miami had. There are rumblings that he was a silent commitment to Miami at one point. It was really kind of looking like they were the under the radar school because they stuck with him from the injury through the transition from one high school to the next, all of these things. Well, Alabama came in here very late, got him on campus a good bit, more than we realized. It turns out, according to Hank South, he'd been on campus 4 times. This year, which is obviously a great show of interest from his perspective. Alabama got plenty of looks at him on the hoof and probably began to see him mature physically. Again, he's gained 20, 30 pounds from one year to the next. But what Braylen says and what kind of the recruiting industry feels here is that Bama began to take the lead on that official visit. If you look back to September, remember we were talking pre-Louisiana Lafayette, smaller visit weekend, only one official visitor. It was Braylen Ingraham. So you talk about an intimate visit, guys who are getting a ton of time with Nick Saban, with Coach Cool. Remember, Coach Cool came from Miami, who had the early lead. So there's a lot of dots that were connected here in the last couple of months with Braylen Ingraham. And you watch the tape like we just did, and you see a ton of ability. And the next question is always, what happened? Why wasn't he a guy we've been talking about for a year, like Sopshire, like Ika, like Tuitele, like some of these other guys? And the answer is injury, a transition in high school, and a lack of exposure because of that injury. So it all kind of makes sense here for Alabama. Again, senior tape at Alabama. We've talked about it a bunch. It is huge. And this is a guy who is one of these Eddie Jackson examples where, as a senior, Josh Jacobs, Eddie Jackson, these guys who we weren't talking about the summer prior can burst onto the scene and really overtake a spot on the board. And I think some of the guys we talked about prior were leapfrogged by Braylen Ingraham at this point, and Bama was ready to take his commitment.
Yeah. Just for anybody, there was a question in the chat about what was his injury as a junior.
I'm actually not sure, but it was a fairly serious one. He missed several months of the offseason, almost the entire offseason, and it cost him some games as a junior. So I'm not 100% sure on the injury. I probably should have known that before we went live, but it was a fairly significant one for Ingraham. If we get that in the next little bit, we'll obviously update.
All right. So yeah, coming off, it's always got to be a good thing for. I think it shows you the power of how an official visit to Alabama can, kind of swing things because, he takes a visit where, not many kids want to go to a Louisiana Lafayette game as their official visit, but you go to those games, you get more attention from the coaches. Like, you're there pretty much as you're the only official visitor, you're going to get the attention, and it just shows you the power of that official visit. If they're able to swing him from Miami having a hard lead to now he's committed to Alabama. So
yeah, absolutely. This is again, it's sometimes when it's not the sexiest visitor list or the gaudiest visitor list, things can change in a hurry. And obviously we saw that in terms of the game. I know a lot of people put stock in, okay, kids visiting for this game. Well, he's not going to see a great game. Well, as we talked about earlier, Braylen had been on campus 3 times prior. He was at Bama Louisville week 1 in Orlando. So he had seen the kind of on-field things that he was looking for at this point. When you take that official visit, really it's not as much about football. It's more about bringing your family up, which obviously you're allowed to do, spending time with the coaches and looking at the total aspect of what it would be like to be on the roster one day. The football stuff at that point, 2, 3, 4 visits in, speaks for itself. So take that into consideration when you look at these official visits as well. And again, when you're the only official visitor, you get that much more time with Coach Cool, with Coach Saban, with Tosh Lupoy, who was a factor here as well. So and Joe Panunzio, who again is we always forget to talk about him. He's the guy for Bama in South Florida right now. Long-term connections at a lot of these programs. And St. Thomas is one of these elite programs that Bama really hasn't had a lot of success at over the last few years. So that alone, if anything else, with this Braylen Ingraham commitment is important for Alabama. We mentioned the coaches, we mentioned the guys they have on staff, and the players that they always have. They've got a corner committed to Oklahoma. They've got a very good safety who's one of my favorite in the country, Jordan Battle, committed to Ohio State. They've got younger prospects that Alabama has been in on the offensive and defensive lines. Warren Sapp's nephew is there right now as a sophomore. There are a ton of kids at St. Thomas Aquinas. I think they have 2 linebackers committed to Miami. So the point is, this is arguably the most important high school to be involved with in Florida, not named IMG Academy. So even if it's just for that, think of the importance there for Alabama. You maintain the South Florida pipeline and you kickstart it at a school where you hadn't been really successful here recently. I actually saw a stat where St. Thomas Aquinas has the most players on NFL rosters right now as well. When you talk about guys like James White, running back for the Patriots, LaMarcus Joyner, defensive back for the Rams, a couple of other guys on the offensive line. The Bosas came from St. Thomas Aquinas, Nick and Joey. So again, those are only some of the names, but it tells you how talented this high school is. So for Braylen to move there as a senior, overtake guys who are D1 guys just to get on the field, sustain it, and improve all while gaining weight, I think tells you just what type of trajectory this kid is on right now. He's no longer that raw puppy prospect who is trying to figure it out, who flashes. Now he's a consistent force, and that's before he gets to Alabama in that strength and conditioning program. So a lot of the same things, to spin it back to relevance, a lot of the same things that we've talked about with Quinnen Williams. Kevin, you remember seeing Quinnen before his senior season, 245 or so, looked like a DN. Looked like a DN.
He looked like he looked like a very lean. He was very lean. He was he looked like he could be an outside linebacker / DN. I mean, he looked like in high school, he looked like he could have been playing that jack linebacker, stand-up linebacker, that Alabama has. And to watch him grow into what he's become today is just, it's incredible. It's one of those things that, we love doing. And we like seeing these kids, blossom into their full potential. And he's definitely one of them. I mean, he, like I said, looked like he could have played that jack linebacker, been Anthony Jennings or Christian Miller. Like, he looks like he could have played that position in high school. And now, I mean, he's one of the most dominant inside pass rushers in the country.
Yeah, it also is a good example of how damn hard the projection business is that we're in, called recruiting rankings and things like that, evaluations. Some things are really hard to account for, but what begins to change your mind with those things is precedent. So we have a very relevant precedent here with prospects like this. So again, we talk about D linemen at Alabama and defensive tackles, but remember, you've got your nose guards, you've got your 3 techs and your 5 techs. They're all some versions of defensive tackles. And Ingram is another one of these guys that can play at least 2 of those spots.
And that the true 5 tech kind of gets left out of the world anymore, because now you're either a nose, you're a 3, or you're an end, and that that 5 technique's kind of a lost art in the defensive line world, being a true 5 technique. But yeah, they're all relevant. They're all a different variation of each other. If you want to think of a 5 technique, you think more of a, kind of a LeBron Ray / Isaiah Buggs they're more of, what we would consider a true 5 technique. And then you have your 3 technique in your nose, which would be more Quinnen Williams, Raekwon Davis. And then your true edge rushers, you're going to have, Anoma and yeah, that's and then the Christian Millers and the Anthony Jennings types. But yeah, the five technique is a dying breed in the in the world of football as these offenses change, the defenses have to change as well. So
yeah,
a
basically
little
the five tech is your first down 3-4 defensive end, and how that's such a limited
yeah,
thing
yeah,
because I mean,
yeah,
you're not the traditional 3-4. How often are you in that? Like you said, in today's game. I mean, with the exception of playing the next opponent, Benton is going to play in LSU. You're not in that very
yeah,
much. Typically those guys are kicked inside, and your Jack and Sam linebackers almost appear as 5 or 7 techs on the outside, and that's your Anthony Jennings, Christian Miller. So yeah, as Kevin said, it's a bit of a dying breed, but Alabama is one of the schools that still values that position. So this is
yeah,
a guy again. LeBron Ray is probably the perfect example of a guy who can come in like that. And by the way, he's another one that senior year in high school, 245, 250, and now you look at him on the roster, 285, 290. You never know how kids are going to maintain their athleticism when you do throw on 30, 40 pounds. But obviously Alabama has a pretty good track record of being able to do so. So Ingram becomes that much more interesting when you consider that as well. So a big pickup perceptionally. Bama hadn't got a 2019 commitment in forever, mainly because of the numbers, but also when you dig into it, the more you dig into it, the more you say, hey, Crimson and Blue Chips kind of messed up not talking about this guy a little bit more. And certainly we're hoping to make up for that here today.
yeah, definitely. And I think it also shows, Alabama's how Alabama values him with these limited spots left, that they take a commitment from a guy that we haven't talked about and has kind of flown under our radar. But I think it shows you what Alabama thinks of him if they're going to take his commitment with limited spots left. I think that shows a big confidence in what they have in that. Also, wanted to say for William, who asked the question about what his injury was his junior year, he had a shoulder injury his junior year that cut the junior year short.
Yeah, which makes it more impressive that his hands are now a strength. You wonder how much time he needed there, but obviously he could still eat and still gain some weight with the shoulder injury, which he did. But it's not bad weight. Kid looks pretty darn good there on the hoof. By the way, Bama was already number 1 in the recruiting rankings before that when the composite adjusted. So obviously this pledge extends the lead a little bit over A&M, Oklahoma, Georgia, Oregon in the 2019 recruiting rankings. But like you said, Kev, I think it shows the value of a guy like Ingram and how good he's been for Bama to use one of those limited spots for him. What I do think it does in terms of the D-line, I think it does eliminate those types of guys who were 3, 5, 7 tech potential guys like a Braylen Ingram. Guys like him you would expect not to be added to the class for the remainder of the year. So you expect more of the bigger guys or some pure edge guys. So this doesn't affect Kayvon Thibodeau's of the world, the Nolan Smiths of the world, but it could affect guys who are similar in stature to Ingram. So your bigger guys and your edge guys are not affected by this, but we do think it probably ends the recruitment of guys who are more in that 5 tech range. So the Sopsters of the world still very much in play.
Yeah,
DeMarvin Leal, the A&M commit, still very much in play. Thibodeau, Smith, those guys still very much in play for Alabama. So this D-line class is ridiculous. The O-line class has the potential to finish out just as good. So I think, it's a classic Bama class. Heavy trench influence, and Braylen Ingram is your latest blue chip representative there.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. I don't really have any big team news going into the bye week. The only big team news was Jalen's little ankle surgery. As Nick said, it's nothing serious. He doesn't think it'll affect any playing time for the quarterback. So that's really my only team news. Don't know.
Yeah, the other guys are getting healthier too. Obviously,
Yeah, obviously,
Smitty missed the last game. He's getting closer to being back, and the other guys played. Tua played, Ruggs played, So those guys are all getting healthier
Yeah.
heading into LSU. Yeah, but it's typical bye week. I don't think it'll be a hell week for practice for Alabama. I think rest, a little R&R is going to be the priority here as Nick Saban gets older and maybe a little bit softer. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing. I'm not trying to bash him. I think that is a good thing for Alabama right now. But best believe with LSU on the horizon, things will turn up here sooner rather than later for the Tide heading into an evening in Baton Rouge. That game time was announced as an evening game, which is perfect. pretty
Yeah.
much perfect prime time slot. That stadium will literally be moving as that game begins. So how big of a test for Bama, all of that we'll get into next week much more, but obviously the biggest test of the year to this point. There have been a lot of disappointing teams on the schedule, but you credit Alabama as well. Even on those weird Saturdays like last Saturday, Bama didn't succumb to the momentum and kind of what had happened elsewhere in America. The Purdue blowout of Ohio State seems impossible to happen against Alabama. So that's a testament to the consistency, the preparation, all those buzzwords that we hear Nick and everyone else say this time of year. So yeah, team news pretty much kosher, pretty much on track, stable. Can we go to the NFL right quick? Because I'm trying to show for those of you watching, the boys with the stars on their helmets picked up a little receiver in the last couple of days.
Just a little one. No big
deal. Just a little guy. Yeah. Coop to the Cowboys. I don't have any analysis. I'm just personally, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I'm a Miami guy. He's a Miami guy. Obviously, I cover Alabama. He played at Alabama. Cowboys are a team that I do not hate most days. So that's a pretty cool situation there. I saw pictures of him today at practice. He's getting going on Wednesday for Dallas, who's also in a bye week, by the way. So talk about good timing. Good timing. He's going to get plenty of reps to catch 12-yard curls from Dak Prescott here over the next 10 days. So
let's hope they can complete them. But yeah, so I guess I want to wrap up last weekend. I know we made some picks last weekend. Not all of them correct, but we had a pretty big weekend since we didn't go live after the game, and we didn't wrap up anything as far as Tennessee or any of the other games that were going on at the time. Big takeaways from the Tennessee game was, for me, Deontay Brown looked really good at left guard. I thought he did a very good job either filling in or taking over for Lester, whichever one it is. He looked very good. Looked good in the run game. Looked good in the pass game. So that's a good news for the Tide. And then, the offense, once again, did whatever it wanted. The defense, I thought, played pretty well. There was some spots, as usual. I thought the linebackers played a lot better than they have in the past.
Yeah, big improvements here for those two guys.
I don't know if they're listening to us and like, oh God, these guys hate us, so we might as well play better. But so I thought the linebackers played well. Mac looked a lot better. Obviously, there's now the hoopla of why didn't Mac get called for targeting, blah blah blah, whatever.
Mac will tell you why.
Oh, Mackle, he's put it out on social media in a detailed picture that has blurbs around the picture and, face mask up, wrapped around the lower torso. My foot's still on the ground, so I'm not launching at him. So, whatever.
He just retweeted that tweet again, by the way, in case you missed it.
Oh, my God.
I'm not making that up.
He cares way too much about the public perception, but so yeah, and obviously we're talking about the controversial Devin White targeting call as opposed to Mac destroying Jerry Guantano and not getting called for
sucks for Devin White. He should have stayed in, but the rules suck. So
that's true. And obviously I think there needs to be something done with this targeting, whether it's I've seen that there should be like targeting that gets a 15-yard penalty, no ejection, and then targeting that gets a 15-yard penalty ejection. So like maybe you have different levels of targeting. I don't know. They really just need to do away with it altogether because.
Could you imagine pushing a quarterback and missing the biggest game of your college life, or the first half of it?
Yeah, first half of
pushing the quarterback. Game. Devin White could have ended Nick Fitzgerald if he wanted to. Could have ended.
Oh yeah, that could have easily.
It looked like he consciously said, "Let me just lay off, push him to the ground, let him feel you." You know, when you're in a defensive meeting, the goal is to got to make the quarterback feel you early and often, and that was a duke it out SEC West, two crappy offenses going at it type of game. So every opportunity to make the quarterback feel you in any capacity was important. But even with that goal, that is a standard across all levels of college football, he subconsciously said, let me slow down. Let me just get him extended away from me, use both of my arms, not use my head or even my shoulder, and just extend on him. Well, guess what? Devin White's 6'2" or whatever. Nick Fitzgerald 6'5". So when he extends his arm straight forward, it's near the neck area, technically, of Nick Fitzgerald, and that's what got him tossed, not only for the remainder of that game, but obviously the first half of the Alabama game. So it just sucks when a guy who seems like he is going into this play thinking, all right, I'm not trying to get ejected, still gets ejected. Like we saw in the NFL, that somebody made a sack and was literally trying not to fall on the quarterback because the evolution – yeah, and he tore his ACL just trying not to fall on the quarterback. I mean, are we at this point where quarterbacks are that important, where any type of touch is deemed illegal, and now guys are hurting themselves trying to adhere to the rules? It's really counterproductive, and frankly, it's trash. It's trash, and I would imagine even if you're Harvey Updike, you got to be like, damn, Devin White should have been in this game. I would think if you're Bama, you want to beat everybody at their best. They're already giving you their best shot. Let's beat them at their best as well. And obviously LSU will be a little less than that without their top defensive player, not named Grant Delpit. So that sucks, but I guess it's the rule. Here we are, So
here we are, 2018 football. It's what the world's come to. So
yeah,
I think that I definitely think it needs to be addressed. I think it needs to be looked at. I think something needs to happen because all of these kids, I mean, some of them, yes, I can see ejections on some of the targeting calls, but there needs to be a next level or a lower level to where, okay, well, maybe it wasn't, whatever the requirements or whatever to be ejected, but it still deserves a 15-yard penalty or something of that nature, to where we're not kicking kids out. Because like I can only imagine getting kicked out of a college game, knowing that now I'm gonna miss the first half of my next game. Like college games those are like, for a lot of those kids, that's the last time they're gonna play football. And most of them aren't gonna go to the NFL.
Right.
But
could you imagine missing a game for that?
No, I'd be pissed.
Yeah,
I'd be so mad if I had to miss a game because I led with my helmet. Like, I would have gotten kicked out of a bunch of games.
Every game.
I would have been kicked out of every game because I led with my helmet every game.
Shoot, I would too. I mean, I was a smaller guy. So if I'm taking on an offensive lineman, guess what I'm leading with? Crown of my helmet. Tight ends on a drag. I gotta get them down. Guess what? Going low, crown of my helmet. Like it was such a big part of the game, and I get getting it out of there for both parties' safety. But when it's just a dude extending his hands, I mean, it's a
so here's your proof. I would have kicked out of a lot of games. The front of that helmet, that's my senior year helmet. The front of the helmet is completely scarred. I mean, I led with my head. Not saying that that's a great thing and, that should be, what we're doing. But, I mean, that's how I was taught to play football. And I played center and I led with my head. So, maybe I'll have CTE when I get older or something. Who knows? But
totally worth it.
Totally worth it. There's a ring up there somewhere for it. I mean,
They saw mine a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So, there's a ring up there somewhere, and there's a little. It's kind of it's iridescent. No, see through. We'll go see through. There's a couple of awards up there that are see through and stuff like that. But that's just the way football was. It was just a different game.
And that was only 10 years ago. It's not like
I know it's not like I feel like I'm 50 years old saying, "Oh, we played in leather helmets and no face masks." But I mean, damn, we are only talking 9, 10 years ago. I mean, I last played football in 2010, so you're talking 8 years ago. I mean,
yeah.
Ridiculous to think about.
It is. I mean, obviously, Devin White's going to hear his name called very early in the draft, but not everybody's in that position. But even for a guy in that position, the college game is something sacred and special. It's the school you pick. It's he's representing his state in the biggest game of Coach O's tenure and the biggest game at LSU probably since Saban was there, or no, since the championship that Les Miles won with Saban's players. So that's where he is. It's just a special game. So even for the Devin Whites of the world, who will be Sunday guys and they'll be millionaires and all that, it's still not fair.
College is special. It's that college football, because you don't get that atmosphere in the pros. Let's be honest. I mean, if we're talking atmospheres, you're not going to get a better atmosphere than Baton Rouge on a Saturday night, 1 versus 5. Like, you're not going to get a better atmosphere than that ever. I don't care. I don't care if you're going to Penn State's whiteout game. I don't care if you're going to Michigan, Ohio State.
No, I mean, the national championship won't have that. None of these other games will.
None of those games will have that. The only games that'll have that are home games and their stadium on their field. That's what these guys play for. And to tell him that now he has to miss a half of one of those games, I just think is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, let's be honest. The way the first halves have been going for Alabama, the game might be over by that point.
Yeah. Well, I saw a thing today that broke down scoring offenses in the SEC. Obviously, Alabama's number 1 for points per game with was it 51.6, and then Alabama's first half is number 3 with however many points a game. And Alabama's first quarter is only 3 points behind Vanderbilt for bottom of the SEC. Like, it's crazy. So now you're talking the biggest first half team in the country, the biggest first quarter team in the country, and you're going to be without their best player. It just sucks. It sucks for them. So, and then obviously for around the rest of the country, the Boilermakers performance was impressive to say the least. I don't know where the wheels fell off for Urban Meyer in that game, because I was late to the game. I had to go to work, and I only got to watch the last quarter and a half of that game. So I don't know what happened.
It was terrible from the start, man. The whole game.
But for them to throw 73 times and not have a run game, when you have a dual, even if your running backs or something's wrong with your running backs, I mean, you got dual threat Tate Martell sitting on the bench just wearing a coat, looking cold as crap.
Cali boy in the cold, man.
Well, they ain't nothing. They don't want that. But and then obviously the great story that came with the Boilermakers win. Sports. It's those times where you're just like, sports matters and all that good stuff. But we won't get real sentimental because that's just not our style. But
hashtag Tyler Strong. Keep fighting, buddy.
Keep fighting. Man. Obviously, I
got my Boilermaker colors on. Technically,
Technically, yeah. I mean, obviously. So yeah, that was a great story, and obviously, it was great to see them get that victory and for him to be there and all that. So that was awesome. How about Washington State? First time game days there, and big game, and I mean they pretty much dismantled the Ducks.
Yeah, speaking of atmosphere, huge. I mean, they got out to a stronger lead than Purdue did. I mean, they were blowing out. They were boat racing.
Yeah,
Oregon obviously came back after the break, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't going to be enough. You just kind of felt that they would Char wouldn't be enough. We were wrong on that one for sure. I thought this would be kind of a statement win for Crystal Ball moving forward, but yeah, Washington State. Who would have thought?
Mike Leach, son.
Washington State has the ball in their court in the Pac-12 North. Is that an indication of the Pac-12? Maybe, but they have the ball in their court all the way through.
Like,
and now that Apple Cup is
yeah.
shaping up to be a big one. But yeah, Washington State. The Pac-12 goes through Pullman, Washington. Here we are.
And see, I feel like we go through this every couple of years where there's a Pac-12 team that all of a sudden they're sitting at 6-1 and then they hit the back half of their schedule, which Washington State's schedule is very backloaded. So yeah, I mean, it was an awesome game for them. It was awesome atmosphere. If you watch game day, I mean, 6 a.m. and people there, there's a ton of people there with the flags and, Rinaldi getting the old Crimson story was pretty cool to see where it comes from and where that tradition started. And now it's 217 weeks strong, which is pretty crazy, but
wild, just wild.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
they'll drop the ball later on. They got. Yeah,
I mean, like I said, I feel like we have this conversation like every couple of years with Washington State, and you're like, God, they're 6-1. They're they just beat a team they probably shouldn't have, and then they go shit the bed somewhere. But
yeah, and then their loss to USC was a game they probably shouldn't have lost. They were controlling that game, but they got at Stanford, at Colorado, and obviously the Apple Cup against in-state rival Washington. So if they survive those three, they deserve it. Obviously, they've earned it, but tough to imagine that they will. But Pac-12 has been weird. It's been weird this year. Before this week, it was all about Colorado and Oregon, and now it's Washington State, and I don't even know who's going to come out of the South. USC might circle back around and get in. I don't know. Utah's pretty good sometimes. Like it's a weird conference.
It's a weird conference.
It was Washington's to lose, and they lost to Auburn week 1, which looks worse by the week. So
poor Auburn.
Washington, the Pac-12 will be left out of the college football playoff. So one less bump in the road for Bama, Clemson, Notre Dame, those schools of the world.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. So yeah, with all of that being said, it was another crazy week in the college football world, and we have another one coming up this week. Obviously, Bama's on a bye week, so we don't have any Bama picks to make, but we do have some other games going on, and we're going to keep track of our second half of the season picks as we move towards the college playoff. We're going to see since these games seem to, are a little bigger and they seem to matter a little more, we're going to put some pressure and see.
Let's do it.
We'll see what our overall record is as we move towards the college playoffs.
Well, I mean, at this point, you know who these teams are. You would think, right? As much as you can know what 20-year-olds are, we have a pretty good idea of who these teams are at this point. So let's put our theoretical money where our mouth is. A little pressure never hurt anybody. Usually reveals something. So let's play revealing Crimson and Blue Chips.
All right. We will start on Thursday night. Thursday night in Morgantown, West Virginia. The Baylor Bears come to town, and we got a plus 13.5 spread to Baylor.
What's the forecast?
The forecast is 50.
Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad. I think there'll be a lot of points on the board. I was expecting something a little cooler than that. Thursday night, though, Morgantown, couches burning, country roads blaring. I think that'll be a comfortable win for West Virginia. 13 points is a lot, though. I didn't think they would be getting this much. So give me Baylor early. I think they can perhaps have a lead. I do think Will Grier and those guys are too much offensively for Baylor, but I'm somewhere in the 10-point range for this Mountaineer victory. So give me West Virginia for the win straight up, but give me Baylor plus the 13. Or are they Baylor minus 13?
No, Baylor's plus 13.
Okay, I'm just making sure I heard that right. Yeah, because they should be. I mean, West Virginia should be the favorite at home. Give me Baylor. 13 points is nice. Matt Rule's been doing a good job this year. Kind of story that hadn't been talked about enough. He's been pretty good this year in Baylor. It's the Big 12, so it is what it is. But even with that, he's been good, and obviously he's got a chance to make a national statement. I guess tomorrow night. Here we are already. The next week of college football is here. Can't wait.
All right, so just let me make sure I get right. You're taking the points.
Yes, give me Baylor plus 13 all day long.
All right, cool. All right, now a game that's kind of a little near and dear to me. For the first time ever, the Appalachian State Mountaineers are ranked in the top 25.
Pretty awesome.
They're playing on a Thursday night at Georgia Southern, and Georgia Southern's getting 10 points.
Okay, well, I'll be lying if I told you I knew a ton about Georgia Southern. I do know that they're playing very well this year, and I did drive by their campus on my massive road trip over the last week or so. Beautiful campus there.
They are 6-1.
Yeah, in the kind of middle of nowhere, Georgia, but
averaging 31 points, allowing 19.
App State's defense is money, and I got to bring it back to Bama. I got to bring it back to my guy, Zach Thomas, one of the first quarterbacks I really dug in and scouted in the state of Alabama, Hewitt-Trussville High School, home of 4 Bama commits right now. He was the first Hewitt quarterback I studied, and he was a legitimate dual threat. And if you hadn't been watching App State and you hadn't known why they're ranked, it's the combination of the defense and Zach Thomas as a dual threat quarterback. Dude has been lighting it up. He's very comfortable. He'll be back in the South. The weather will cooperate much more than it does up in Boone, North Carolina. Give me App State. I don't care what the spread is. Give me App State. They're the best G5 team that few people are talking about in this country. Give me App State all day long. They've been good for decades at this point. They've been very, very good no matter what level they're playing in, and they are running the Sun Belt for sure.
Yeah, App State was my first choice for school coming out. One of my good friends and middle linebacker on my high school team played for them. If you don't know much about App State, they won 3 straight national titles at the Division I-A level. Yep. Names like Armani Edwards, who got a cup of tea in the league, who's still playing in the Canadian League. And they've been one of the best programs in the country for the last 15 years.
Yeah, their only loss this year is to Penn State, and they were in control in Happy Valley. They were in control the whole game in Happy Valley and dropped the ball there at the very end. So they should be undefeated and ranked in the top 15 at this point, if we're being honest. Yeah.
So they should have beat Penn State this year. They should have beat Tennessee last year,
and they did beat Michigan.
They did beat Michigan our sophomore year in college. So it's a great program. It's good to see that. I wasn't sure when they moved to the actual Division I level, but they've had great success. They've won more FBS games since moving to FBS than any other program in the country.
Yeah, think about that.
Yeah. Friday night. We got some Friday night lights action.
Real quick, Kev, what was the spread there? Just so we're documented. I don't care what it is. I'm taking App State anyway, but I do want to document.
It's Georgia State plus 10.
Money. App State wins by double digits. 2 touchdowns right there. Boom. 34-20.
All right. Friday night lights in LA. No, sorry, in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl. UCLA is playing Utah, and there's no spread information on this game.
Well,
great.
UCLA has been terrible. That offense is anemic despite hiring Chip Kelly. They've had Wilton Spate, they've had Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and it hadn't really worked with either one. The defense has actually been playing pretty well. I actually watched a good bit of that UCLA-Arizona game, Pac-12 After Dark, last week as I fought falling asleep. But I do know that Utah's got guys. Utah's always got a defense, it feels like, and offensively they've got some South Florida dudes, including the quarterback who's a dual threat. I'm sure there is a spread available somewhere. So I'm going to take Utah unless that spread is above 17. I'm going to take Utah comfortably against just a down UCLA team. They fought hard for Chip Kelly. They have guys on defense, but their best players out for the remainder of the season. Jalen Phillips, and that offense just can't get going. So
all right, UCLA plus 10.5.
That's fine. we'll take Utah comfortably there. I'm taking a lot of road teams here today.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Moving on to Saturday's games. Noon kickoff in Tallahassee for Clemson. FSU.
Clemson.
FSU's plus 17.
Ooh, okay. I don't know, man. That actually yesterday I watched Clemson, NC State, and Trevor Lawrence is going. He's doing the things we thought he could do for many years. We've all kind of envisioned this moment in the recruiting industry, watching this kid play at Cartersville, and he's doing those things already as a true freshman. So unbelievable stuff from him. That O-line's playing well. Travis Etienne is a Heisman candidate that nobody talks about in any capacity. This dude, I don't know how in the world he got out of Louisiana, Coach O, but by the way, the number one running back in Louisiana this year is committed to Georgia, so Coach O part 2. How in the world did this guy go from Louisiana to Clemson? He just skipped over the whole SEC all the way to Death Valley, that other Death Valley. Unbelievable player he is.
He has
Great runner.
98 carries for 800 yards and 14 touchdowns.
I mean, that's ridiculous. I'm not a math magician, but that's almost 10 yards a carry.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous. So it's not like Clemson is saying, here, Trevor Lawrence, here's the football. Go win games with this array of wide receivers. No. Veteran offensive line, legitimate running back, and the backups are good as well with Feaster, Choice, even the Lynn J. Dixon kid who Bama recruited for a little bit. They got dudes all over the place offensively, and it's finally ticking. It's clearly Trevor Lawrence's offense. Kelly Bryant's literally gone. So all of that transition and the potential weirdness of it is weeks behind us. That Syracuse game where it felt really weird, that it seems like months ago, even though it was just a couple of weeks. Clemson is in complete control. Defensively, their back seven is still vulnerable, but Florida State hasn't exactly been lighting it up in the passing game with that offensive line. Francois has had minimal time to throw all year. It looked a little bit better last 3 quarters against Wake Forest, but this is the same Wake Forest team that Clemson beat, 66-3 or something?
Mm-hmm.
So I think Florida State will – it's kind of like the Miami game. I think Florida State will have some momentum and get out strong early, but Miami ain't Clemson. Clemson ain't Miami. So I do think Clemson rebounds from that initial shock sooner rather than later. And the 17 doesn't scare me here. They've blown out everyone in the last couple of weeks in that conference, and I think they'll do the same again to FSU. I'm somewhere in the neighborhood of 41-20 in this game. Clemson rolls comfortably, and again, Travis Etienne is a problem for another ACC defense.
All right. Sticking noon kickoffs.
It's another road team for me, by the way.
Yep. All right. Well, it's gonna get even more here. Wisconsin travels to Northwestern, and Northwestern plus 7.
7? That's it?
Yep.
Yep. I'll take the Badgers. No analysis needed. Northwestern
Badgers.
sucks.
Badger.
I still don't know how they beat Purdue week 1.
No.
Yeah, that was a fun game to watch, but I couldn't believe it. That's when everyone thought, oh, Northwestern was going to be good, and then Akron beats them a couple weeks later, and then Northwestern upset. Who did they upset a couple weeks ago?
Northwestern.
Yeah, they have a huge Big Ten win to their name. So I think it was Michigan State. They beat Michigan State. So
is that really Oh, well, I mean, Michigan State was ranked 20th at that time.
Right. So the Big Ten.
And let's not forget, they gave Michigan a game, 2017. They gave Michigan a game, 20-17. So, I mean.
Yeah, I think Wisconsin's too much. And Wisconsin's rebounding from their Michigan loss as well. So give me the Badgers on the road. 7. If it was double digits, I'd probably go Northwestern, but 7 isn't quite scary enough.
Yeah. So I think somebody dropped the ball on this, and Florida-Georgia is a 3:30 kickoff.
Well, you got Bama. Oh, no, that's next week. Well, never mind.
Yeah, exactly.
They're trying to minimize the drunkenness in Jacksonville.
So Jacksonville, the world's largest cocktail party, because I'm still going to call it that. Florida, Georgia, the 9th-ranked Gators, which that's hurts to say.
Good for them, man. Good for them.
Good for Dan, old Dan. And
Dancing Dan.
Dan's the man. Seventh ranked UGA. I don't know how, but Florida plus 6.5.
Florida plus 6.5. So Georgia's favored by about a touchdown here. I think this is the game where Jake Fromm reminds everybody that he's damn good. I think this is it. I think Riley Ridley has a big game. I think that Georgia's offense plays balanced football, which is something they haven't done recently. Against LSU, I don't know what they were doing. The running backs were rolling, and they began to abandon it. It was very weird. I do think Georgia's coaching staff is structured enough to learn from those mistakes. And Florida's getting such a benefit of the doubt. They were getting boat raced by Vandy. Boat raced by Vandy. They should have lost to Mississippi State. The LSU win was a strong one, but when has Florida looked like a true complete team? Kentucky beat them up physically. They haven't looked like a complete team all year. Their defense is legit as it gets, but their defensive strengths, I think, play into Georgia's offensive strengths. Georgia is good on the edge at tackle. Florida rushes the passer well. Georgia should have a strong running game when it wants to. Florida combats that well. But I do think if that happens and Florida is ready for the running game, I think this is the Jake Fromm game that kind of reminds everybody what he did last year and shows his potential. He's a safe kid. You can't turn it over against the Gators because that defense literally ignites that offense. Felipe Franks in a short field is actually not bad this year. So if you minimize the turnovers, which is supposed to be Jake Fromm's MO, I think Georgia wins this game 10 points. I'm somewhere in the 24-14 range with this game. So a touchdown doesn't scare me at all. This is technically a road team, so I'm taking the road team here because Jacksonville's only, an hour and a half from Gainesville, and it's probably 5 hours from Athens. Give me the dogs. The points don't scare me. Good rebound for Kirby, coming off of a bye week, by the way. For them, he knows how to prepare in that scenario. I still don't trust that Florida offense, and I think Jake Fromm is the quarterback who cannot mess it up against Florida because in their wins, Vandy turned it over a bunch to help them come back. LSU threw 2 picks there at the very end. Jake Fromm doesn't seem like that guy. I think he reminds everybody just how good he is, just why Lane Kiffin picked him as his quarterback in that class of 2017 before some guy named Tua became available there late in the cycle. So Jake Fromm, big rebound for him, big rebound for Georgia coming off the bye week. Balanced offense, Holyfield, Swift, another week to heal and get healthy. A little too much firepower for the Gators despite having that good defense. They'll be on the field way too much because of Florida's inability to move the football offensively. All you got to do is stop the run against Florida. Make Felipe Franks beat you, and I don't think he can.
10-4. I don't think he can either. 3:30 kickoff in Norman. The 8th ranked Sooners take on the 3-4 Kansas State Wildcats.
Every year, Kansas State does something they're not supposed to do, but it ain't today. It ain't this week.
Also, Kansas State is plus 25.
Oh, that's a big number. That is a big number. I mean, Kansas State's defense hasn't been what we expect. We always
allowing 25 a game.
We always expect them to be very good, and this will obviously be the best offense that they would have faced this year. In Norman, you said?
In Norman.
Oh. You know what? Let's give some love to Bill Snyder. They're going to get blown out either way. They're going to get skunked either way. But they keep it fairly close. They keep it in the teens most of the game. That spread's a little too much. These in-conference spreads close to 30 are still weird for me. I'm still, even though everything tells me, you know what, roll the dice with Kyler because he's that much better than everybody in that conference, I still can't do it. It doesn't feel right. So he's supposed to be known for defense. He coaches up a gem here, and they keep it in the teens for most of the game. That gives me some time for a garbage Austin Kendall touchdown to not hurt me there in the spread. 25, you said?
25.
Take the Manhattan, Kansas State Wildcats if you're going by the points because they're going to get blown out either way.
So you're going Kansas State. You're going Kansas State points, but Oklahoma straight up.
Yes, it's the road dog weekend. Let's go.
All right. Road Dogs. Well, here you go. 3:30 kickoff in Happy Valley. Penn State, Iowa. Iowa plus 6.5. There you go. How
Guess
about
what?
that?
It's Road Dog weekend, ain't it?
It is,
Kirk
apparently.
Ferentz is the longest tenured coach in the Big Ten, ain't he? Besides
He
Bill
is.
Snyder, if you combine all those 10 years.
They're in the Big 12, so you're good.
And doesn't he beat a team he's not supposed to beat every year?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, it was Ohio State last year.
Well, Iowa's 6-1. Penn State is 4-2. Is 5-2. So
yeah, but they're still favored.
they are favored by 73%, according to the.
You're gonna say 73 points. I was gonna say still take the Hawkeyes because it's Road Dog weekend.
So you're taking Iowa
What's the spread?
plus 6.5.
You already said that?
Yeah.
It's all right.
You were too worked up on Road Dog Weekend.
I just want to say Road Dog weekend because it sounds.
Can we just we'll start hashtagging Road Dog
that
Weekend?
should be the name of the show. Road Dog weekend in theme. Kirk Ferentz is the guy that everyone like this time of year says, "Oh yeah, he's a really good coach."
He's a really good coach.
Yeah. see, everyone says that this time of year. So Kirk Ferentz shows it again. Penn State was overrated from the beginning of the season. We told you to sell on Penn State preseason, and I've seen nothing to change my mind on that front. Again, they should have lost to App State, but this time they do lose to a black and yellow school. This time the Iowa Hawkeyes on Road Dog weekend.
So taking Iowa State or Iowa,
Yep.
sorry, taking Iowa.
Yep.
All right. One of the only remaining unbeatens. The USF Bulls travel to Houston, where Houston is a 74.5% favorite, and they're giving the Bulls 7.5.
Bulls are minus 7.5.
No, the Bulls are plus 7.5.
Oh, yeah. So Houston's the favorite.
Yes.
So we got this 5-star matchup of Blake Barnett against Ed Oliver. Ed will probably crush Blake a time or two in this game, but
true story.
I think the Bulls win this one straight up, man. They've had this. They've been in the fourth quarter of every game, and selfishly, I live in the Tampa area. I cover Bama. I'm tired of the UCF crap. I want to see them play undefeated because South Florida's going to beat UCF this year. The war on I-4.
Let's go, Blake Barnett.
So, give me Blake Barnett in that 5-star matchup, going to Houston, Texas, getting crushed by Ed Oliver, but bouncing back and winning another game on the road. Bulls stay undefeated under a guy going back to Texas in Charlie Strong.
Charlie Strong going back to Texas.
If he just does the hook 'em sign, it's like the Bulls thing too, right?
Yeah, they do that for the Bulls.
He's just been doing this for years now. So he's going to do it again in the state of Texas, except people are not going to be happy about it this time. Well, I guess that's kind of what happened last time. But
horns up,
Bull strong, whatever they say in Tampa. I should know that. Yeah, Bull strong. I think that's what it is. They roll. Blake Barnett.
Charlie Strong, let's go.
We've been talking about Lane Kiffin quarterbacks all day. Blake Barnett.
Let's ride. All right. Another one. I need the DJ Khaled thing. Another one. Okay. 4 p.m. kickoff. Missouri, Kentucky plus 7.
Missouri's really favored against Kentucky. I mean, I guess offensively, Kentucky can't score at the rate of Missouri. Kentucky's just been winning. Like they dropped the ball against A&M in an overtime game at College Station, which kind of proved what it's like to play there. But other than that, they're kind of like UCF or USF. They've been in all these close games and they've come out on top against Florida, against South Carolina, etc. So everything's telling me to pick Kentucky in this game, and it is Road Dog weekend. But the Kentucky team, they're the Wildcats. So the Wildcats can't go in and win on Road Dog weekend. What does that Coastal Carolina coach say? We need more dogs.
We need more dogs.
We need more dogs. This Road Dog weekend, not Road Cat weekend. So you know what? Even though Missouri's the Tigers as well.
They're playing another cat, though.
But they're at home, so it's home cat weekend, except for Penn State. All right. I'm confusing myself.
Already. You're just making too many.
My point is, I know I'm trying to get too cute. My point is that Missouri's going to win this game.
All right.
That spread doesn't scare me. They do score a little bit too much for Kentucky when you actually think about it a little bit more. Kentucky's defense is front seven laden. They can rush the passer with Josh Allen and those guys. But Drew Lock, if he's the guy we think he is, he took his lumps against Bama. He rebounds from that and gets rid of the football a little bit quicker. I think he's getting his receivers back as well. So lay the points. Bazoo takes care of business at home and gets a nice win for Barry Odom as the theme of SEC coaches doing just enough plays itself out one more time. I don't think any SEC coach gets fired unless Auburn won the Mega Millions there last night.
Somebody in South Carolina won that bad boy. I'm about to start knocking door to door in South Carolina. You trying to be friends? They said like 500 million take home. Like, Jesus,
man.
So, all right, moving on. Washington at Cal plus 12.
Well, if it's Road Dog weekend, and we're talking about the Washington Huskies going south to Cal, 12 points?
12.
Jake Browning's good for 12 points. I'm good with that. Take the Road Dogs, purple and gold, or whatever combo they're going to wear this week.
Purple, right?
Washington. Honestly, I hadn't watched Cal once this year. Washington wins the games they're supposed to win usually.
They were ranked at one point.
They dropped the ball in the bigger games, Auburn, Oregon. But this isn't a rivalry. They're going to take care of business against a weaker opponent like Cal. Road Dog weekend, take the Dogs.
All right. Next one, their next test, Washington State at Stanford at night.
Yeah, this is one that worries me straight up before you even get into the points. What's the point spread here?
Washington State plus 3.
Okay, so they see it as a coin flip, just like I do. This worries me. Coming off of the high of beating Oregon at home, game day, all those things you talked about earlier, Kev, that worries me. And again, we've talked about what Washington State does is that they drop the ball this time of year after big wins. And that's a lot of road games at Stanford, at Colorado, home for the Apple Cup. I feel like as high as they got, they're coming back down. So maybe I didn't learn my lesson and I underestimated them last week, which I clearly did. But this week, they look like more of the team we thought they were going to be. David Shaw, one of the best coaches in America, just like we say with Kirk Ferentz, he's going to cook something up here. He's going to cook something up here at home, as you said, at night, late game, coming off of that win. Nobody thinks Stanford is going to look like Stanford, and they haven't for a lot of this year. But I think Saturday is more of that. Big game from Bryce Love, and the Cardinal get back to – he's due for one, right? And Washington State defense isn't anything crazy.
No.
He's due for one of those games. Dr. Love, as they call him. This is that game at home, at night, against an opponent that has a ton of hype and momentum. So give me Stanford at home. Lay the 3 points. Stanford by a touchdown.
All right. Texas A&M at Mississippi State.
Battle of Maroon.
Texas A&M plus 2.5.
So Jimbo, where they were off last week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jimbo and them were off last week. He's always been good coming out of bye weeks. This season has taught us that A&M's a darn good football team. They're the only team that gave Alabama any kind of game, I guess for a little bit, maybe Mizzou. So just my point is this. Mississippi State can't score. Mississippi State can't score, and they're a team that is dependent on running the football. Y'all remember A&M Bama. A&M's front seven is pretty good. Pretty good front seven. I think they strut their stuff. I don't see Mississippi State threatening the 20s in this game. And quietly, Kellen Mond's been throwing the football pretty darn well. I think he threw for 300 in that win over Kentucky. He threw for 300 against Alabama. They've got receivers. I think those guys get going against Mississippi State, kind of like Florida. That defense is really good, but they'll be on the field way too long, just like last week against LSU, where they got beat up pretty good by LSU on both sides of the football. I think that it happens again with Texas A&M, and the Aggies roll. Points don't scare me.
10,
It's a
4.
field goal. It's just a field goal, man.
Yeah.
I mean, people act like Mississippi State can score. They can't.
No.
They couldn't score. I mean, that Florida game was just a anemic offense versus one another, and they just couldn't do it. And against LSU last week, I watched a lot of the game. Nick Fitzgerald is just not the guy for them, and it's
Nope.
crazy. It's just this season in college football is about playing the right guy. Ask Alabama, ask Clemson, ask Wake Forest, ask anyone. Ask anyone. Playing the right guy, regardless of his age, regardless of the precedent set by the other guy. And Nick Fitzgerald is the all-time leading rusher in the SEC for quarterbacks. More than Tebow, more than everyone, more than Jalen Hurts. That doesn't mean he's the right guy for today. It's a pro-style offense. Joe Moorhead wants to throw the football a little bit, be balanced. Nick doesn't let him do that. And that stubbornness there or whatever it is, I think continues to come back to bite Mississippi State, and they lose another one easily.
Don't they have a good backup too? Like, don't they have a kid like?
Yeah, the kid in the first game threw for 5 touchdowns or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
let him get in there, man. Let him spin it a little bit. I think that's your only chance against A&M, who has some susceptible players in the back end. That front seven is stout, and their offense is good. They're going to score more. They're going to get into the 20s. A&M will be in the 20s in this game. I don't think Mississippi State can do so with a run-heavy Nick Fitzgerald. Period. Give me the Aggies by double digits. I think 24-10 kind of game. I think the Aggies roll here.
I'm with you. All right, next game, NC State.
They got a dog too, right? The Aggie, the collie is a dog.
Yeah, it's a little collie dog. Yeah,
Just saying.
Another road dog weekend
Against the Bulldogs, but whatever.
All right, so NC State travels to the Carrier Dome.
Oh, snap!
Can Q's rebound? Q's is +2.
+2, so a pick'em game. You know what? I thought Syracuse was going to go into this September spiral that they've been going into the last few years. They haven't been good, post-September spiral. They haven't been good after the beginning of the year. Once the weather gets cold, ironically, the team in Central New York hasn't been good after the beginning of the year in each of the last few years. So I thought they were going to do that again, but Syracuse has been pulling some stuff out. Overtime against Carolina, again, not the best opponent in the world, but they pull it out. They got another team from that state coming up to the Carrier Dome to play them. You got to score points to beat Syracuse. You got to do it. And I just don't think NC State is very capable with their group of wide receivers. Ryan Finley's a good quarterback, but look what Clemson did with a subpar back seven, right? Compared to what we're used to there. Syracuse has athletes on defense. Now, they don't have the pass rushers or the D-line that Clemson has, but Clemson blew out NC State. We're not expecting a Syracuse blowout here, but like the Syracuse team that continues to drop the ball, Clemson looked like more of an exception than the rule with this team, and Syracuse should have won that game. So, and that was in Death Valley, by the way. So give me Syracuse. NC State's been overrated for 2 years now. I think Syracuse gets a nice win and gets, I believe, what? That clinches bowl.
That makes them bowl eligible.
Yeah, that's been the goal for, I know that sounds weird, Bama fans. They just want to get to a bowl. That's all. That's all. And they're this close to it. I think they get it done. Syracuse wins this game by a field goal. So lay that 2.5 points in the Dome against NC State. Wonder what they're going to wear. All orange, all blue combination.
They wore all orange last week.
Yeah, so maybe they mix it up a little bit. I like their orange because they got like the metallic looking helmets.
It does look good. I will say that. The next one's the 8:00 game. The undefeated Irish travel to Annapolis to take on the Midshipmen. And the Midshipmen are +24.
Big number. It's a big number for a team that's very familiar with Notre Dame. That said, this isn't the same Navy team that we're used to. It's
disappointing because
Yeah, it's they've been so good for so long. They're due for years like this at times, but this isn't that Navy team. And this Notre Dame offense with Book at quarterback, again, speaking of years where you play the right guy, even though Wimbush has been good over the last couple of years, you got to play the ceiling guy. And they've done that. They've embraced it, and they're a different team with Book, with Dexter Williams, and I think it's just too much offensively against Navy's defense. Yes, the triple option slows things down, but again, Notre Dame very familiar with what they do. So I think the advantage lies all with the Irish. And 24 is a big number on the road, but most of these teams on the road aren't used to the cold like Notre Dame is. So I think Notre Dame can handle it. I think they blow out Navy. I'm actually taking another road team, but they're not dogs. They're certainly the favorite. But take Notre Dame and lay the points. This feels like another feather in the cap for that program, which seems like a safe bet at this point to be in the college football playoff with the teams ahead of them on schedule, as producer Kev called preseason.
Let's go.
Even though he didn't predict the quarterback change, but still.
All right. The late ABC game is going to be the Longhorns traveling to Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State is plus 3.5.
Texas. The defense is legit. It's the only legit defense in the Big 12. And this Oklahoma State offense isn't what we think of as an Oklahoma State offense. This is there's no Mason Rudolph here. There's no Des Bryant, James Blackman, James Robinson, any of these guys. They have guys, yes. Justice Hill's a good player, but Texas's defense is legit everywhere, and I think that's the difference. Texas has had the best defense in the Big 12 for a few years, but they've been missing pieces in the back end. True freshman Caleb Stearns is a monster. You hadn't watched him, enjoy it. BJ Foster, true freshman, monster. You ain't watched him, watch that game and enjoy that safety combo, which was the best in the country coming out last year. Bama had the best corners. Texas had the best safeties in the country in recruiting this past year. So those guys will take some lumps in this game, but they'll also make plays in this game. And the Texas offense finally looks like it can move the ball, regardless of quarterback. And I think that's important here. Texas is comfortable with each guy. So regardless of the health situations with them, I think they roll in this game. Basically a pick'em game. So roll with the Horns, with Charlie Strong in the state on the same day. Big day for former Horns and current Horns. No dogs here.
The last of the top 25 matchups is the 19th ranked Ducks.
Quack.
Are traveling. They're on the road at Arizona.
Quack.
And Arizona gets 9.5.
Quack.
And quack. Mr. Ducksworth.
Yeah, double-digit win. Nasty taste in their mouths after last week. They don't come out as bad as they did. Arizona's got some dudes. I like the running back duo they have. Again, I watched them play last week. But unless Khalil Tate dials it back and Kevin Sumlin realizes what he has there, which
Kevin Sumlin broke Khalil Tate.
He's not good at, it seems. Give me the Ducks. Crystal ball rolls. Big bounce back for them. Stay in the polls and really, to stay on Washington State's heels. Because if we're predicting what we are, they got a chance to climb back into the race there. And I think it starts on Saturday night. Anything under double digits wasn't going to scare me there. So lay the points. Quack. All
right, Mr. Ducksworth. All right, so that's it. That's it for the top 25. I got 2 out of the top 25 that I want to ask. Since they performed so well.
Our questions after that, and we'll wrap it up here.
Yep. So Purdue is plus 1.5 at Michigan State.
Michigan State.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
MSU.
Purdue can't do that 2 weeks in a row. Purdue can't play A+ football 2 weeks in a row. They had a lot of momentum going into last week, and frankly, defensively, listen to this. Michigan State is better than Ohio State this year. Michigan State is better than Ohio State defensively. Now, offensively, they have some struggles. Lewerke hasn't been what we thought he was going to be this year. But Purdue defensively, I think it was that game and that result was more of Ohio State dropping the ball offensively than Purdue pushing it defensively. And I also just don't think you can get up like that 2 weeks in a row, and now they're on the road. in East Lansing, who they got a bad taste in their mouth because defensively they played good enough to beat Michigan, but offensively didn't get it done. So I think some of those things change. I think Michigan State wins that game.
All right. And well, that'll wrap. I don't have any more. That'll do it.
You didn't want to go Miami BC on a Friday night in the cold. I'll take BC, whatever it is.
Whatever it is, BC.
Yeah, BC. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be freezing. Them boys ain't used to that.
BC plus 3.5.
Yep.
Take it.
Take the money. Take the money.
Take it all day. How about one just because of our connection to it? Bethune-Cookman travels to Nebraska.
Bethune, baby. BCC. What's the spread?
No.
Is it in the 20s?
They didn't even. ESPN didn't even put it on.
Oh, well, Nebraska's going to win the game, and Scott Frost and company will go 2 in a row.
Back to back.
Turning it around. Slowly but surely.
All right. So with that being said, let's get to some questions in the live chat. Well, we answered the one about what was Jalen's injury or the injury to our newest commit.
Shoulder.
Will Bama land JUCO DN Chester Graves or Samuel Williams?
See, I think these are guys who might be eliminated by Braylen Ingram.
With the Ingram commitment.
Yeah, I mean, they're similar. I know Sam Williams personally. He's a state of Alabama kid committed to Ole Miss right now. He's a tweener like that. Is he a jack? Is he a hand in the dirt? 5 tech? So I don't think it happens. I don't even know if Bama's offered Sam Williams yet. So I think those are the types of guys who are potentially eliminated with the Ingram commitment. And all things even, you take the high school kid over the JUCO kid anyway. So I actually agree with Alabama here. Those guys are good players. Those guys are SEC players. But I just don't think there's room in this class.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I haven't seen much of either one of those two, but I do think that the Ingram commitment kind of closes that.
Yeah, some people think Williams can play Mike backer and play inside. I think 10 years ago maybe in that era, but in this era, I don't really see him as that type. He has some of those tools, but not enough at an Alabama. I think that's a little bit too much. DJ asks, is Jordan Battle better than Noah Pola-Gates? It's a good question. I think they're different. Pola-Gates, we've compared a little bit to Minkah Fitzpatrick in that he is versatile, corner, safety. He can come down in the slot. He can run with you one-on-one. I think in versatility and how many positions he could play, I'd probably take him over Battle. But in terms of just ceiling at your top spot, so for Pola-Gates, corner, and for Jordan Battle, safety, I'm taking Jordan Battle. He's been the most dominant safety I've seen this year, just in the last 6 months or so. So that means combining offseason with 2018 season, he's been the guy, even to some degree over Dax Hill, even to some degree over DeMarco Hellams, the Alabama commitment. Jordan Battle dominated the opening. He's dominated at St. Thomas Aquinas High School this fall and has created a huge push from Alabama, from Miami, from Georgia. A lot of schools looking to flip him from Ohio State. And as we said, St. Thomas Aquinas, teammates with brand new Alabama commitment, Braylen Ingram there. Rafael Monroy curious about another out-of-stater, Antonio Alfano. He wants to know, does he get his 5th star? Yes, he does get his 5th star sooner rather than later. I think he's possessed everything. But if he doesn't get it now, he will solidify that during All-American Bowl week. Guys like that who are out of state, that's really their last chance. It's really everybody's last chance. But I think he'll solidify it before then. His senior tape has been very good. But if he doesn't for whatever reason or maybe falls back, I think that week in January, he'll wrap things up and finish as a top 32 player in America, which, of course, on 24/7 Sports denotes him as a 5-star. Can't speak for the composite, but for 24/7 Sports, I think that is where he ends up. Raphael says Jalen is playing well, but the game feels so different with him in. What's your take? I think he's progressed a ton, man. I think there's not. Yeah, it's a different feel. Absolutely. Look, I'm I'm not going there. It's a different feel, and that's consistent. But it would be a different feel with anybody else not named Tua Tagovailoa right now. Let's be honest. So is he in that group of other? Yeah, he is. But I think he has a different feel as well. And when he's on the field, there's no, I don't know. I'm not a Bama fan, so I can't go into the heartbeat of it. But I don't feel a letdown from the prospects Alabama scores on that drive with him in. I don't feel that letdown. Now, will it be a more methodical drive? Will it be a more balanced drive? Will it be a more running heavy drive? Probably. But I don't think the chances are that much more down when he's on the field. And as a passer, you can't deny the progress Jalen Hurts has made. He's completing a higher percentage of his passes than Tua Tagovailoa, despite the smaller sample size. He's more comfortable. And in each of these games, he makes a throw that makes you think, this dude can play on Sunday. He can do it. He's making throws high, low, and a safety. He's making throws in tight windows outside of the numbers, and he's pushing the ball down the field to some degree. So I'm not sure Jalen is not making as much progress as anybody on that roster, even though he might be moving around and playing other positions and opening things up a little bit. I don't feel that true letdown compared to Tua in terms of whether or not the offense will score. Now, will it look prettier with Tua? Will it be more aerial efficient and aesthetically pleasing? Yes, but I don't think it's as much of a drop off, and I think that's why it was a legitimate battle with these two guys. And I think Mike Locksley's been calling such a balanced effort, regardless of who's in the game, that each quarterback is more comfortable with his weaknesses coming into the season. So again, he deserves all the credit in the world, along with Dan Enos.
Yeah, definitely. It's been like you said, he's progressed very, very well, I think. And like you said, there's that time, there's been that, at least for me, because, once again, like you said, not a Bama fan, but I've started following it, and I've watched every game for the last 2 years now. And when you get him in there and there's at least one or two throws every week where you're like, Jesus, this kid.
Yeah, the Ruggs throw was phenomenal Saturday. Phenomenal.
Yeah, I think he's taking leaps and bounds and strides. So
yeah, and still got obviously eligibility remaining. So I'm not ruling out Jalen on Sundays. I think he could take some other paths at some point, but I'm not ruling it out, man. I think he's been encouraging this year. And again, the kid's got a lot of tape out there too. So somebody's gonna give him a shot.
Yeah. Monroy also asks, will you be at the Talia Tyson game?
Don't have the Friday plans, but after 2,000 miles of driving last week, probably not. And it's on TV, so lazy man wins here.
Yes, sir.
ESPN 2, by the way.
Yep. And then will Bama offer the in-state Lee Witherspoon, the running back?
I don't think so as a running back. He's got corner experience. He's got DB experience. So could that materialize eventually? Maybe. But if it's as a gadget guy or a non-running back, I could see it. Legitimate 10-8 100-meter guy, 4.4. Some reports of 4.3 in the 40, 6 foot 180, putting up dumb numbers. He's got like a 1,200 yards in his last 4 games. It's something stupid. He's putting up 1 million touchdowns, 16 touchdowns in a 2-week span this year up in North Alabama. Mississippi State just offered him. He's got some other P5 offers. I don't think Alabama's quite there yet at running back because of Trey Sanders. Sometimes the simplest route is the clearest one. And now we have the timeline for Trey, right? Official for the Iron Bowl, decision in December. It's October 24th. We're not far off. I don't think Alabama's going to do anything to offset the potential of landing Trey Sanders. He may even commit sooner. Him and Evan Neal, it just seems like they're treading water, and they kind of know what they're doing here. It feels like that. Trade between Bama and Florida, and Evan between Bama and Miami. I still think Bama is the destination for each guy. So it's tough for me to think that they're going to bring in another running back when they do have Keelan Robinson committed opposite of Trey Sanders. But if it's as a corner or as an athlete, gadget guy, maybe he becomes even the second receiver if things don't work out with George Pickens or somebody else. I could see that down the road, but I don't think it happens anytime soon, and I don't think they do anything to affect Trey.
Yeah, so he's got almost 2,000 rushing yards already, and on 86 carries.
Yeah, ridiculous.
He's
86 carries.
He got 39 rushing touchdowns and 45 total touchdowns this year already.
Goodness. Wild. Just absolutely wild stuff from Mr. Witherspoon, who we'll see at the Alabama Mississippi All-Star Week. So we're excited about seeing him in person, which is something that I hadn't done here quite yet. Let me scroll back in some of these comments and look at some of the older ones. William wanted to know if I saw Braylen Ingraham live. I have not. I actually, when camp season was down there, he was injured with that shoulder, so we didn't see him, and I hadn't seen St. Thomas play in person yet. They were on television where he did all he could early on against DeMatha, but I did not watch him in person there. So just a quick clarification there. That looks like it for the early questions. Now we're getting a few here later in the chat as we begin to wrap up. Raphael, 6 or 7 spots left. Who fills it? I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities. I think Trey and Evan feel safe to some degree. Clay Webb is still there. He's taken 1 million visits. But the good news here for the impatient Bama fan, even on the day after they get their latest commitment, is that December's approaching. It's right there. It is right there. December 19th is the first day of the early signing period. You're going to get your fate on Evan Neal. You're going to get your fate on Nolan Smith. If you can flip them, you're going to get your fate on Trey Sanders. You're going to get your fate on Clay Webb. You're going to get your fate on Nakobe Dean. A lot of 5 stars. A lot of the best players in the United States of America. That's 5 big-time targets that you will know your fate on come December 19th, less than 2 months away. And a lot of twists and turns could be ahead. All those guys could take visits elsewhere. Actually, I think all those guys will take visits elsewhere. Just found out Trey Sanders set an official to LSU. Nakobe Dean just set one to Texas A&M, which is a school we haven't talked about with Nakobe Dean. So A&M and Georgia are going to be battles all the way through. Auburn looks like a little bit less of a threat. Florida State now looking like less of a threat for Nakobe Dean, but obviously other SEC schools in the mix for him. So God knows what he's going to do. So these other schools will get visits out of guys. LSU wants to get Evan Neal on campus. So does Miami. So there's still some twists and turns remaining, but December 19th, just before Christmas, Bama's going to find out their fate with a lot of these top priorities. So I don't think you see a lot of movement until then. It appears the Wan'Dale Robinson conversation has shifted a little bit. Nebraska is the trending school for him. Maybe Scott Frost is like, hey, man, come save us. Come be Rondale Moore of this year with what that kid's doing at Purdue. Come do that at Nebraska and take us out of this dumpster fire era. So it doesn't look like Bama is accelerating much for him anymore. So the second wide receiver spot, I think, is up in the air. That one could be a fluctuating one in terms of names. That could be the Lee Witherspoon spot for all we know. I don't think so, but it could be down the road. I would focus much more on a guy named George Pickens, who is not an early enrollee for the 47th time. So I think you're going to have to wait for the fate there. But with a lot of these 5 stars, you'll know very soon. So I think that's the best news for Alabama. I don't think there's going to be more than 3 or 4 spots left total come January. So you talk about a strong finish, not only who you sign in December, but with all of the resources available for just 2, 3, 4, 5 guys, Bama's going to hit a home run on the traditional signing day as well. So the possibilities of finishing number 1 feel very good right now if you are Alabama. All right, Kev, is that about it for us?
Yeah. I mean, just a couple comments talking about Terrell Lewis playing in the Auburn game.
He came back early last year. Why not this
year? Yeah. So
he could redshirt as Sense of Tumor there says, which is that's a hell of a redshirt for Bama. Hey, just come back for Auburn, the SEC title game, and 2 playoff games. Cool. Thanks. Bye. Wow.
No eligibility lost.
Amazing. He could still go to the NFL. I shouldn't say that because it'll get reported.
Yeah.
Garcia said they're all leaving.
Garcia said Terrell Lewis is going to the NFL.
Yeah, let me keep that off the Bama Online message boards there.
All right. Yeah, I think that'll wrap it up for today's show.
Beautiful. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Again, if you're on here and you haven't subscribed, please do so. Check us out on iTunes and SoundCloud as well for the traditional podcast format. And again, right here on YouTube, where it's, as you can see from here recently, a lot more than just the Crimson and Blue Chips podcast. So for producer Kev, I'm John Garcia Jr. Enjoy the bye week if you're traveling. Be safe. If you're going to that one wedding that you are allowed to go to this year, enjoy that as well. God bless. Garcia and the crew out.